What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Business and Biceps. And you better wake your ass up, because on today's show, we're going to talk about the vetting process of business partners, of people you work with. I want to know what the checklist is in John Fosco's brain. I think it'll be interesting, and I'm looking forward to sharing some of my thoughts on when I'm kind of running through whether I want to work with a motherfucker or not.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a straight checklist, but there's definitely a profiling. There's a way I think that definitely profiles people, and I look for certain. It's more personality traits than styles of working, and
That's cool.
I think it bleeds into the professional world, so I'm sure we'll shed some
Profiling is very more aggressive of a term. This is what I'm talking about.
The CIA does. It's what the FBI does. It's what I do. I am clandestine.
I'm not sure what that is, but this makes
I didn't think you'd know.
This is makes me more excited about this topic because John is profiling motherfuckers.
Yep.
All right. It's brought to you by Fundrise. Fundrise, John.
Yeah, so Fundrise is a great way to invest in real estate. Basically, Fundrise enables you to instantly access high-quality, high-potential private market real estate projects, from high-rises in D.C. and Chicago to multifamily apartments in L.A., Cory.
I mean, each Fundrise investment allows investors to diversify instantly across dozens of real estate projects, each one carefully vetted, which we're going to talk about, and actively managed by Fundrise's team of real estate pros. For more information, go to fundrise.com/biceps today. There you go. All right, time for Butt Life. Let's get them Q&A going. Johnny.
Yes.
Butt Life, what do you got?
Yes, everyone, keep on sending us questions at Biz and Biceps on Instagram and Twitter. When we use your question on the air, we'll send out a free t-shirt for you. First question.
Butt Life, Q1.
How do you not let a serious long-term breakup or divorce destroy you? How do you stay positive through such a life-changing experience? Cause being because they cheated or left you for someone else.
Cory, just go first.
All right. So here's the thing about this. This breaks motherfuckers all the time. And I got an interesting take on this. I think that, look, anytime somebody cheats on you or leaves you, it's going to hurt your confidence to some degree. That's human nature. That's accurate to say, I think, because you obviously must have still liked them, right? Look, we're going to say that you did. But to think that you're going to let another person steal what you're about because of some decision they made is fucking absurd to me. Is that, yes, of course, if I love this person, I thought I was going to be with them, but at the end of the day, they chose something else. And to halt your life and motherfuckers jump off bridges when this shit happens. Like, literally, and to me, I never understood that. Like, of course, your feelings could be hurt, or maybe you're upset for a period of time. But I get this question actually a lot on my direct message. My girl just...
I would shut down my direct message if I was you then.
Well, anyway, my girl just broke up with me. I don't know what to do. Dude, it's time to work on yourself. It's time to get yourself together, whatever that means, whether it's training, development, all of those things. That person, you can't let them steal what you're about just because they chose not to be with you no more. To me, it's just like you got to dig deep on this a little bit. You can't let another person dictate that shit, man. That's just not, I don't know.
So it's like this. If somebody is going to steal from you, punch your mom in the face, slap your cousin, finger your butt when you're not expecting it. If someone's going to do all these things that are absolutely disrespectful, unacceptable, and show no regard for you as an individual, how the fuck are you going to sulk after they do it? Basically, what they're showing you is they are not ready, they're not capable, or they just don't give a fuck about you. And they're definitely not ready or capable to be in a relationship with you. So if someone who, like I said, lies, cheats, steals, sexually violates you, if they do that to you, all they're telling you is they don't give a fuck about you. So why are you sitting there saying, oh, this is, dude, they don't give a fuck about you. They just cheated on you. What's so hard to get over? Sure, it hurts. Next. Like, dude, like, what are you going to stop in quicksand and let somebody break you down because they literally showed you in real time how important you are to them. And what they showed you is you're not important to them. So I don't feel fucking sorry for you. It's something everybody has to deal with in life. If you have not dealt with it, you will deal with it. It is part of life, but I think it's a blessing because that individual showed you or is showing you your value to them. And it's time to exit stage left and find someone who actually values you. But left Q2.
I've been employed with a company for 8 years now. What's the best approach to tell my boss that I'm quitting to go work for another company?
Well, go tell your boss that you are leaving to go work for another company and just have the respect to tell them, listen, I'm going to put in my 2 weeks. I'm not going to, do anything disruptive to the office. I'm not going to take anybody with me. I'm going to keep quiet about this, or you tell me how I can best repay you with respect in regards to the time I spent here. And that's business, man. You don't owe anybody an explanation. If you're moving on and you're quitting and your boss has a problem with it, that's your boss's problem. Just show him some respect or her some respect. Give them your 2 weeks so they can transition, and no regrets.
Well, yeah, I think it's interesting because you never know how life kind of comes back around, right? You don't want to take like, fuck it, I'm out. You want to say, hey, how can I help you guys transition? And here's what could happen. You could go to this new business and kill it, and they might have a job 2 spots ahead of where you were at this old place and come right back to you and say, you know what? That dude that left, I heard he's murdering it over at Y company. We should pop him in over here. So you really never know who you're going to run into again and what the situation is. And I've seen that a lot in the last couple of years. People spread out, go to different businesses, have different positions, and might have liked to work with you. So I think if you're talking, hey, how can I help with the transition, kind of like John said, I think you win there.
Pull up Q3.
What are your guys' biggest fears and how do you deal with them?
Biggest fears. My biggest fears are personal fears. They're not business fears. And the way I deal with them is I try to act them out, live them out, or mentally walk myself through the process of dealing with the worst possible, most catastrophic thing that I fear most. And when you do that, you realize that just like everything else in life, you have one option, and that's to move forward. Even if it's your biggest fear, you have to face it down. It's going to hurt, but you're not going to lay down on the side of the road and fucking let the fucking vultures eat you. You're going to keep moving. And I would highly recommend that, as opposed to, shoving that thought in the corner and never looking at it and being so afraid of it. Stare it down and feel how scary it is, and walk yourself through what you would actually do if it happens, if and when it happens, because then you are not fully, you'll never be fully prepared, but you're semi-prepared for it when it does happen.
Yeah, I think like you, John, I think most of mine are personal too. I think I have a fear of drowning, actually, for some reason. I'm not sure why, but that's always, I used to have like dreams about it when I was a kid. So and I don't think I really have had any situations with water that led to that, but for some reason that's an internal thing. And I don't mind swimming or being in big water, so it's kind of interesting. But I think it stems from when I was a kid. There was a lady down the street that got in a car wreck into a pond. Oh. And I remember hearing about it when I was a kid, and that she couldn't get out and she died drowning. And I always thought to myself, like, and so when I see it on TV, if there's movies like the Titanic where guys can't breathe, it must be some type of anxiety. I feel it, sure. but it hasn't limited me from being around water. Sure. So I have some sort of fear of drowning. I think probably the biggest thing would be losing an immediate family member. like someone that lives in your household. I think that is probably my biggest fear for sure. Other than that, I don't have a ton of business fears. I used to talk about how I'm afraid that it would go back to how it used to be. I know logically that's probably not going to happen just because of all the things I've put in place. But I think part of what I tell myself on a regular basis is to continue working hard is that I never want to be back in that trailer. You know, I'd have to really royally fuck some shit up for that to happen. But I think that that's like kind of like a fake business tactic of myself. I don't know if it's a true fear.
You know, what's interesting is I think it is a true fear, and I'll tell you why. Because when I hear about guys like, you know, Steve Jobs going broke after he made a shit ton of money, Elon Musk going broke, you know,
it could happen, I guess.
I think it's one thing that people who make a lot of money or even some money, I think a false sense of security, and I'm not directing this towards you.
Yeah.
A false sense of security is very common amongst people who get a taste of the good stuff.
Yeah.
But even the biggest, baddest, smartest dudes have gone broke again.
Well, yeah, because you keep pressing forward. So I don't think that it's I don't think that the money has like an unlimited faucet. I've never really thought that way. So I think that's why, you know, it obviously doesn't, right?
If you find the faucet, let me know its geo coordinates.
That's already stripped out and just runs, Johnny?
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. So, I mean, I think that's
weapon.
part of why I'm hard on myself daily for a lot of things, because if it's running, you want to keep it running, but it just doesn't do that on its own.
No, it does not.
But great questions. All right. I believe it's time for Fosco's World.
As always, that introduction it's appropriate. You know, there are a lot of things that are inappropriate.
Greatest basketball player of all time.
Greatest human of all time.
I mean, that's you said that.
Yes, I sure did. There's a lot of things that are inappropriate on this show. That intro was appropriate. So that's just that. So today in my world, we're gonna talk about something that I think. My brain always goes to, I think young people struggle with, but the more I think about it, dude, I know motherfuckers at every age that struggle with this, and it's the art of keeping your mouth shut, because I think a lot of people don't understand why you need to keep your mouth shut and the importance of keeping your fucking mouth shut, right? Because when you're working constantly on different things, I don't give a shit if you're working in an office. I don't give a shit if you're starting businesses. I don't give a shit what you're doing. Information is currency. Information is power. And information is something that can be subject to blackmail. It's something that can take someone who has less resources somewhere simply because they have it, and they shouldn't. And the more people talk to people who really have no connection to their business, whether it be their personal business or their financial business or whatever they do, the more they talk, the higher the risk becomes that somebody who has ill intent, and we never know in life, we never know who has ill intent, and we never know who has ill intentions until we get fucking smacked in the back of our fucking face, and our plan or what we're working on or who we're talking to gets absolutely foiled because we were ignorant and naive enough to believe that we could just talk to anybody and they have pure intentions. And this is part of the hard lessons that business teaches you. And most people's intentions, I'll say this a billion times and people need to hear it a zillion times, aren't pure. Most people's intentions are, how can I take what you just gave me, and in this scenario it's information, how can I take that and use it for my gain? Now, if my gain is at your loss, I don't give a fuck, because I'm going to benefit. So you were nice enough to share with me information that I was not entitled to, but I can benefit from it. So I'm going to put you on hold now, Cory, and I'm going to go get a payoff, or I'm going to go give someone information who wants to know it. And whatever happens to you because of it, I ain't concerned because it's about me now. And I just want people to understand and know that that is the quickest way to lose an opportunity, to lose a job, to lose anything they have in a professional setting, when they really aren't aware of it or they really don't expect it. Because when you share information with people, most of the time the intentions, which I think are for the birds, but the intentions aren't ill. They're not bad. But you could very easily lose an opportunity that you're either making a lot of money in or that you work very hard to get because you shared it with the wrong person, and information that you necessarily didn't create. You've shared with someone now that is a enemy of said project, business, person, and the blood is on your hands.
I think whatever skill you've amassed and what you've been through to get there, that's why consulting exists, right? I mean, it's one of those things where when you're just shooting your mouth off about this, that, or whatever, and people hear the opportunity, they might have had initially good intentions, but the money starts talking. And even though, let's say they can't execute it as well as you can, they can still disrupt your shit real fast in real quick. And I think that it happens a lot because in today's day, everybody wants to tell everybody what's happening all the fucking time, even if half of it's fucking fake on the internet, or 3/4 of it, which we've seen time and time again, right? And so that's why when people like to ask me, when I was in a public company, direct numbers was a thing that got asked because it was public information.
Right.
When you become private, I talked to a friend that I knew from before that might have talked numbers with me that he's not entitled to those numbers now.
No.
Before he could look them up, or he was involved in the business.
Right.
He has no reason to know how much sales we have at Max Effort, or what I do on my website, or how many listeners we have on our podcast. It's all fucking private.
Absolutely.
And it's private for a reason. And I think that people aren't entitled to that stuff. So they can size you up to say, well, fuck, I'm about to pick off what these motherfuckers do because I can get mine. Dude, them old school motherfuckers never did that shit, bro. They never let you in on that. Like, it takes a price to get to a certain spot. You're not just giving that out. I don't give a fuck if you're going to keep it all for yourself. Man, fuck you.
Dude.
Come on, right, Johnny? I mean, that's the way I process it, because I think, like, for me, this was a little bit of a process because I like to think I'm like a genuinely like pretty nice dude. So I'll have a lot of conversations with people, but I became super general and really I'm not saying anything anymore when people start. And then I just straight tell people now that used to think they were entitled to those things. Nah, man, I just don't share that.
Well, yeah. If anyone thinks,
and I just go direct to them now, and they really a lot of times they don't really know how to act, or like I'll have.
But if you think you're entitled to that information, you're a fucking moron.
Correct.
Anyone who thinks they're entitled to private information is a goddamn moron.
Yeah.
And what I want people to be aware of is the snake in the grass. The snake in the grass that says, "Oh, Jeremy, you're a young guy. You're a producer on the show, man. You guys are killing it. How many listeners do you have a month? How many downloads do you get a month?" And a guy in his position wants to feel like somebody. So if he's like, "Yeah, we got 1.5 million listeners," immediately that ego boost he gets, right? Because he's not used to that feeling, and it's a new feeling, and it's a good feeling. It's a feeling of an accomplishment, and it probably is coming from a good place. But that snake in the grass just took your shit.
Yeah, he's sizing it up.
And that shit's worth something. And in that hypothetical scenario, a guy like Jeremy, for you listeners out there who know that he's part of this show, would get terminated, period. Like that's it. That's it. And that's how quick it happens. And it's because you had no reason to share that info. That was not your info to share. But then it turns into, but they were asking because they just wanted to know. It's not your info to share. You don't understand the implications, and that's why the guillotine fell on your neck.
The amount of people that it's so funny. Like I'll meet people in public that kind of know the transition from, MP to the site to max, and they'll just come straight be like, dude, well, how many members you got? And I'll like, you think I'm going to share my exact numbers with you, X guy I just met in the fucking gym, so you can run that number in your head and then go, I mean, what? Like, I just think it's like almost like a little bit fucking ridiculous that somebody would even ask such a personal type of question when I don't fucking know you.
Yeah.
But people, they do that shit constantly.
And they always will. And that's why it's on us to be aware how dangerous information is.
Dude, of course. I think it's good. Good topic, Johnny.
Yeah, absolutely. But moving on, we're going to make our way to a little place called Cory Gregory time.
Thanks, John Fosco.
Yes.
I really like that topic. It was
Thank
good
you.
because I
Appreciate
think that's for these young people. That's a really
STFU
good,
dudes.
Which is
Shut the fuck up.
there you go.
Yeah.
You could talk a little bit more than John, but just don't tell him anything real.
Yeah.
Let's listen to the podcast. All right. So my thing that kept popping in my head was that I wanted to talk about today was this, I guess, thought process I always had when I was a kid, when I would see like my parents not be able to make it to events, like sporting events. That's a big deal for me. I've brought this up a lot, of being there for things, or not being able to be there because they have to work like a double on the weekend, or being able to like not really doing all that and still not really having the wealth created at the end of it. So sacrificing the time, maybe not making the right decisions, and really ultimately, I think what it did was make me really aspire to own my own life. And I think that's where a lot of entrepreneurship is natural to me to some degree, but I think it rooted more so on the freedom that I wanted for myself, and that I love the creativity, I love the business, but I really was focused on like doing something I like to do and on my own terms. And I knew that wasn't going to happen. That's what everybody's fantasy world is, that we hear about. I don't want to take the first job out of college. It's not my passion. Well, motherfucker, neither was stacking lumber or coal mining, but I have to make some dough to get my shit together so I could go try to live my passion. Right. So you motherfuckers out here that ain't taking that job because you ain't into it yet, like it doesn't work that way. So I just want to say that first of all. But the aspirations to not have to ask if I want to go into my kid's classroom at noon to be there for whatever thing, I don't have to ask my boss if I can go do that. My family had to do that. To not ask if I want to go on vacation at a certain time, as long as it's not running into some business thing that me and John have planned, not having to do that. To making sure that if it's like, if I don't work this double on Saturday, I can't pay my rent. Like these things, you feel like you're owned by someone else. And that was really something that bugged the fuck out of me when I was a kid, because I heard my parents talk about, man, like I don't want to go do this, but I really don't have a choice because we can't pay the bills if we don't. Correct. And my dad made it to one basketball game from a year from 7th grade through high school, and that was his favorite sport and my favorite sport. Yeah. One game a year, because that was the only time he had that week's vacation. And dude, I was so hype when he got a chance to actually come to it. But I started thinking to myself, like, dude, he would choose to be, he had his faults, but he would have chosen to been there every game, but literally didn't own his own life to where he could. And if something is that small, money doesn't buy you happiness. Me and you have met a lot of people that have a lot of money that are fucking miserable. Is that accurate to say, John?
That's fact, yeah.
But what it does do is, as long as you're not an idiot with it, you can create a lot of freedom for yourself. And I think that my whole aspiration and what I was inspired to do by seeing it the opposite way was, if I can do whatever it takes to do something I love, and it can give me the freedom to not replay these things that I didn't like, then it doesn't have a certain number where I exit at. It doesn't, because at the end of the day, if your overhead's 1,000 and you make 10,000, That's 9,000 positive. You could probably pretty much do what you want. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not being a millionaire necessarily. And I think a lot of people get that a little bit twisted up, right, John? You can make a couple 100,000 or 100. It all depends on how you manage everything. And so freedom is not having the overhead that's so high that you're in that rat wheel where you have to do something because someone else owns your time. And that was kind of like something that kind of been on, kind of on my mind for a while, but I think that sparked a ton of the reason why I'm essentially a brat with my time and with what I wanted to do with it and how I want to operate and live. And I think it roots from that.
Yeah. It makes sense. And I would just say, it's like redefining priorities, redefining what matters. And when I hear you talk about that, you're right. It's not $1 million. It's not a dollar amount. It's not an exit amount. What it is choices, and it's making good decisions. And it's saying, I make $80,000 a year. Okay. We're going to live in a $1,500 apartment, and we're going to spend $800 a month on food. And we're going to spend $500 a month on 2 cars. And we're going to have whatever that number is left over, call it $4,000. Let me tell you, if you have $4,000 left over every month,
dude, it's a G a week.
Right. You live smart. You can live a happy and fulfilled life. So for everyone listening that thinks, oh, it's about millions and millions and millions and millions, that shit'll trip you up just as bad as what you were talking about, not being able to make it to games because you got to go work a job that doesn't pay you. That shit'll trip you up just the same. It's understanding why you're doing what you're doing. And you should never do it for a certain price tag. You should do it for reasons like, hey, man, I want to be free. I want to see my family be free. And I want everyone to just fucking live a happier life. And I, thank God, have a skill set that can provide freedom. And freedom is not a number.
It's not
freedom
a number.
It's a series of choices and decisions.
And I think about when I felt like I got my freedom back was when I called in and said, I'm done at the old job, which was a business I started but turned into a job because of the way it was set up. And it became something I wasn't about on multiple levels, but really on that level, like, dude, the conference calls and the fucking Sarbanes and Oxley shit, dude, that is like, I can't even say it straight. Like, that's just not me, like, at all. And I remember so many people were like that around me were tripped up about how I was nervous to a degree, but at the end of the day, I felt like I got it back. I woke up like refreshed and, pondering some things. But at the end of the day, I knew it was like a clean slate where I could get my freedom back to operate how I wanted to operate. I was operating not how I wanted to operate. Right. And that was something that was really, and it still is really important. We talk about this all the time. We choose to do these things. We don't have to do them. Right. My parents had to do it. Right. Probably sure a lot of times your parents had to do it too, Johnny, right? They didn't have a choice per se. And that to me is what all of the work, all of the risk, all of those things, I think the value is really in that it's a choice. Yep. And I value that a lot. So this is good. Absolutely. Interesting, huh?
Factual.
Very factual. All right, time for the main event.
Ring it.
All right, Johnny, the bell has rung.
Very nice for whom the bell tolls.
And we want to talk about vetting people, a process, somebody you're going to potentially work with, be a partner of, work around. Is there a metaphoric checklist in Fosco's head behind those sunglasses that kind of triggers?
Sunglasses wouldn't be on if I was trying to vet somebody.
Talk about that.
I think the first key to vetting somebody is giving them absolutely no clue that you're vetting them.
Of course.
But for a lot of people, it's not, of course.
Yeah,
For a lot of people.
For me, I was like, right.
Yeah, for a lot of people, they sit down and they say, okay, now I'm going to ask you some questions about you.
No, it's called observing.
Yeah. You want to observe people in their natural, comfortable environment. When people are comfortable, they're most prone to just show you who they are. They're most prone to have a loose mouth or have a very respectful mouth. You want to see them in their element, and you may be thinking, well, trying to hire someone, how can I see them in their element? Well, let them get out there with some other employees and talk, and just, I don't want to sound like a spy here, but do your best to pay attention and to listen and to see what they say. Because one thing that always, I think, trips a lot of people in power up is that, oh, that's a good young kid. Why? Because he talked respectful to you, motherfucker. He talked respectful to you because you can write him a check or her a check. I want to see how he talks to the person. That's not writing him a check. That he or she has to work with. And if they're as respectful, and if they're as open-minded, and if they behave the same way, and if they don't, that's bad on them. That's not someone I'm interested in. I don't want to be treated a certain way because I can write you a check. I want to work with people, and I think all people should want to work with people who treat people a uniform way, because that is the way they believe people should be treated. You know what I'm saying? And I understand the awareness of being reserved around your boss or a leader. But when you're out there treating your boss, oh, yes, sir, and everybody else, like, yeah, whatever, man, fuck you. You can't do shit to me. Well, fuck you. I'll fire your fucking ass in a second because you're a piece of shit person. You know what I'm saying? So I think that would be my big thing, is observing them in their natural environment when they don't know you're observing them.
Yeah, so I think that, one, I really like to work with consistent people. So because I expect a certain level of consistency out of myself, I don't necessarily expect the same out of everybody, but I expect a level of it that I know I can expect on a regular basis. So seeing, like, even in small things, what people do on a regular basis. Obviously, working out's a huge thing for me, but not mandatory. Although I like people that work out because there's another level of caring about themselves or the way they feel and the way they work. I think that's proven true for the people we've worked with, Johnny. So I think that's really important to me. I think that just doing what you say you are going to do 99% of the time, which, by the way, is not true for most at all. How many contractors will tell you I'll be there at a certain time and come 2 hours later? How many people that have told me, oh, you know what, I'll be there at this time, I'll do this, oh, I never got to it, then I'll do it the next. Like, dude, working with inconsistent people just does not fly with me. And so I'll give them like little stuff to see how they react over time, and they can build. That's why I love the way we do things at Max. You got to come in and just work for free, and let's just see if you can handle it. Can you show up every time and give the same effort Monday through Friday on a mundane task? Packing sacks isn't that fun, but can you be a fly on the wall, understand how valuable that is to learn the business, look under the hood, ask questions when it makes sense, not talk all the time, just be there. I mean, I think that these are real basic things that, and I like to hear how people talk when they drink. I don't drink a lot, but I will partake and drink, but I don't really ever get drunk a whole bunch. But it's like people get real loose and tell you what they really think when they have one or two drinks most often. And so I think that observing how people operate, and are they a person that does fucking happy hour Thursday through Saturday or Sunday? That really doesn't match up with the way I operate, and it didn't have to be exactly, but I just think, like, I want people that are consistent about their business, do what they say they're going to do, and I can count on. And if I can't, and I'm seeing holes in that, then it's probably going to lend to me not wanting to work with them. Because let's face it, how many people do we really work with, John? Less than 10.
Yeah.
In terms
of counting on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
for sure.
Even just total amount. It's just not that many people. So that's if you think about how tight that circle is, it's extremely tight.
Yeah.
So if you're going to, lack of a better word, penetrate it, then you have to be about your shit. Yeah. So I'm not just going to loosely let someone in that ain't got it.
No. And I think people set themselves up, and I don't mean that in a negative way. It could be a negative or it could be a positive. Let them say, I will do anything for this opportunity. and then test them, and then know that they, go here or there at 6 p.m. and hit them up with the task that needs to be done, and see if they have that same vigor for the opportunity at 6 p.m. when they think they should be off, as they had at 9 a.m. when you were talking to them about it, and they said they would do anything in the world for it. People who are really about it, they don't give a fuck. They're down to support
ride
the cause 24/7. So it's little things like that. I think those are the way you test people in appropriate ways to find out if they're committed. It's really simple. I don't think you need to get aggressive. I don't think you need to be abrasive. I think you need to take their words and say, okay, your words are your commitment, and then use their words and do little stress tests.
Yeah.
And if they live up to what they say, well, then you got somebody.
Yeah, agreed. I think it's those little stress tests along the way, and they build more confidence with you over time. A lot of times they don't realize that's what's really happening, but it's all about how you react to the 6 o'clock phone call when you think you should be like chilling on the couch or going out of your way. Like, that's the easiest way to tell. When somebody has to go really out of their way and they've said that they've committed and you can feel it on them, I think that tests their commitment level.
Yeah.
I mean, because that is a huge one. And also, I just think having integrity about just backing up what you say you're going to do all the time. I mean, people mess things up, but if they were still attempting to do what they said they want to do and they fucked it up, I can't be mad.
Right.
At least they were trying to execute on the certain time. There's nothing worse than being let down by somebody they just didn't put forth the effort because of a timing thing or this, or they thought something else was more important. In business, things are absolute. Absolutely. We live in the ASAP world. Absolutely. And that is what it is. So I think the other thing is, this old Jewish baller that I knew from back in the day told me this too. He said, if a man will cheat on his wife in front of you and show those type of tendencies, he will cheat you in business. And I don't know if this is 1,000% true, but this is the way this guy operated. I'll tell you the guy who he's talking about. I'm sure you'll pick it out later. And it's real true with this guy. But at the end of the day, he watched him run up his credit card. He thought he was a good business guy. He had a decent business. He watched him run up the company credit card on a mistress. He watched the way he operated. Mm-hmm. He watched how he lied to his family. And he was right. He did the same shit to him. And he's like, dude, I've just seen it happen so many times in a row. So I think there's something to be said. Look, everyone has different situations. There could be a monster at home that you don't want to be married to anymore. I understand those things happen. And you might be in a situation. You know what I mean? Of course. But if you look at it as from a, kind of a cookie cutter standpoint, if you're unfaithful to your immediate family, this is big for me, and your kids, and you're walking home and you're staring them in the face. And I saw what you was doing at the fucking strip joint. Not just getting a dance, like acting crazy, taking bitches home, all that. I don't know. I just think, are you going to have that same commitment to your business partner?
So I want to go a different direction on it, because I get the point completely.
You know what I'm trying to say? If you're showing disloyalty
I get it.
on immediate family in front of you, then you've got to think, like, why would they be ultimately loyal to you? But that's what his point was.
It makes sense on the surface, but then I think to myself, okay, if that is the qualifier for, let's say, this guy you're referring to.
One of the qualifiers, I think.
Yeah, but let's say if he lives by it, right? So let's say, what about the guy who doesn't engage in any of that, but he is a monster to his children?
Yeah, same. I mean, but you can't
don't
pick
see
up on
that.
it. Yeah,
you
for sure.
See it.
I think it's the one that's obviously outlandish in your face. You can't, like, what he was saying is, I can't deny that this will come around to me if I'm watching it happen.
Yeah, it's
just another observation.
What did Vito Corleone say in The Godfather? He said, what did he say? What another man does with his life, as long as it doesn't affect me, it was along the lines of, I have no right to judge him
Sure.
by it. If it affects me, then we're going to talk.
And what this 70-ish old business guy was saying is that it never didn't ring true in his situation.
Sure.
So that was something I was like, and he just brought that up one day randomly, like, hey, let me tell you something. This is what I've found. So in him, maybe 5 out of 5 times it was right. Doesn't mean it is, but I think that that's one of the things that it's an observation that probably should be, it's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, I guess I just go to like, okay, we talk about Titans. I go to, again, Jobs and Bezos. They both are notorious for cheating on their wives.
Yeah. Doesn't mean they're not successful business people. But they cheat their best friend on money or their business partner on it? I don't know.
They definitely didn't cheat their shareholders.
No, I got that, but
yeah,
you know what I'm saying? It's different. Like if they weren't.
I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's a good ideal, But I think there's so many.
There's so many different
X factors.
But I think it's at least you should pay attention to it.
Sure.
Like if I was giving you all this lip service, John, about how I'm so committed to my family and everything we do, and then you saw me acting crazy, wouldn't you start to question it?
I'm going to be bluntly honest with you.
Okay.
If you gave
you wouldn't care.
No, that's not what I said.
Okay.
If you talked about how committed you are to the business and you were going out doing stuff, but like you're at the meetings, you're fucking in it, and your personal life, how I feel about it, I feel like I don't even have the right to comment on it.
Yeah.
Because
I didn't say you have a right to comment on it, but you would have to internalize that what I'm saying to you and what I'm showing you is two different things.
But
That's
if you're
my
delivering
point.
on your business commitments, which is why we're together, I may not like it.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I will judge you on it.
Yeah. The problem is, and maybe it's not what
Sure.
I saw personally in this situation,
is they lined up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And they cross over to lying more, doing things that are short term, not long term because of these other factors.
Yeah.
And I saw it in my own business that I
Sure.
was in. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I think that's the bigger point is, yes, your scenario is the right way to think about it, but do they not ever, what's one guy, the same guy said, was it the same guy or some other guy said, the worst thing you could wish your enemy is a mistress because of the lying and the things that have to happen around that. They
You have to have a daily strategy. It's like another job. You have to have a daily strategy.
I think that's maybe my bigger point, right? There's so much deceit lied in it, and then you have a daily strategy of how your lies don't run into each other.
Right, and then your business doesn't get the attention it needs.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I was looking at. But I understand your point, though, too. Because what you're saying is business and personal are different.
Yeah, and
But
I
I
wouldn't
think
feel right judging somebody.
No, but I think there's qualities that you want a person that's going to be truthful in you working with them.
Yeah.
So I think that's the big thing is if you're telling me one thing and I'm seeing something else.
Yeah.
And if you're telling me one thing in business and I'm seeing something else.
Yeah. I guess I just never go there with people like, hey, are you straight with your wife? Like, I don't go there with them.
Well, I don't know if it's asking it, but I think if you're seeing it, that's something different.
Yeah.
And you're being told something else.
Yeah. Well, yeah. If someone's lying.
Like, you're not going to come out and
yeah.
say, gee, I want to know if you cheat on your wife. Like, that would be stupid.
No, I don't talk like that.
But it's like, if I'm like, dude, I'm so happy and then all of a sudden we're in fucking Vegas and you see what's happening, you're like, man, something ain't lining up here.
You know, maybe something's lining up really well.
Well, maybe for you. Yeah. Because you're allowed, John. Anyway, any other betting things you want to talk about before we wrap it up? I think it's really the biggest thing is observing people. Don't you think, John? Is that the biggest takeaway for these people?
Yeah, and I think
Pay
everyone
attention.
should be aware that when they feel, let's say, maybe comfortable and they feel that people are not watching them, you don't know that. So be careful.
We're going to leave you with that because that's a great way. Hey, John, it's brought to you by Fundrise. Are you aware of that?
Are you aware of that?
I am aware of it.
Listen, I'm aware of 14 different things at once. Are you aware of that?
I'm aware that Fundrise enables you to initially access high quality, high potential private market real estate projects from high rises in DC to multifamily apartments in LA, Johnny.
Oh, well, each Fundrise investment allows investors to diversify instantly across dozens of real estate projects. Each one is carefully vetted and actively managed by Fundrise's team of real estate pros. Listen, if you do not have experience investing in real estate, a company like Fundrise is how you do it, period.
Go to fundrise.com/biceps today. Johnny Fosco!
Cory Gregory.
Can the podcast be stopped?
The podcast can